Hey everyone, today is going to be the last time I'm going to talk about the myofascial lines as such, like in specific. So today the last lines we have to discuss or want to discuss is the deep front line, okay? Being a deep line, it's very hard to describe how it is connected through and in the body. So I'm going to show you the picture and try to create a picture in your mind without having any like skeletal props or anything to work with to really make clear how this line is connected. If you aren't too afraid to maybe watch a videotaped dissection that had been done and published, I will be commenting the link to a YouTube video that will actually show you the actual dissected tissue with explanation how it runs. So there's no blood or anything gory or anything, so really interesting to watch and to listen to. It's only 4 minutes, so that'll be in the comments under this video. So let's have a look at the deep front line. So these illustrations show you the deep front line from a front view, a lateral view, and a posterior view. So I'm going to take you through it quickly, possibly, and I'm actually going to start with the back because it's a bit funny how this one works. So you can see, hopefully here, that the deep front line is connected to all of your toes. It is connected into your arch. So one job of the deep front line is to actually help lift your arch up, so stop your feet from collapsing inwards. It then travels through or over the heel, through the calf muscles, through the back of your knee where it's connected with some really dense nervous tissue and stuff as well. So it can be quite a sensitive area here. It then runs medial, so to the inside of your legs into your adductors, where it then connects into your pelvic floor. Now here's where it kind of becomes interesting, because from the back, you have connections into your QL muscle, which is sitting somewhere here. And that connection through here comes then back in through the actual front, where the iliacus connects to that QL here behind the spine. So you can start hopefully to see, and actually this does look somewhat three-dimensional to some degree, how we're coming from a almost superficial, on the bottom of the feet, calf muscles, back of the knee, into the adductors, then internally more into your pelvic floor and moving in and around the spine, connecting everything to each other. As we travel up just in that little line up here, so that's trying to kind of show you the connection to the diaphragm. So diaphragm is like a dome shape on both sides, and as we breathe, that expands and it contracts and expands and contracts. So the deep front line very much connected, and actually one of the main parts the deep front line has is to help and assist with breathing. It then again keeps traveling up, more so somewhat across the sternum here, but also behind, because it is connected into the spine, through the throat here, and it actually is going into your mouth, and the tongue is the last part of the deep front line. So if we're looking at it from a lateral view, that is then here kind of where it shows, again, it goes in through the spine and would come in from like inside back into your mouth cavity. Cool. So there's those illustrations. But again, if you are keen to watch that video, I can highly recommend to do so to understand a bit more how this line looks. So there you have it, that's your deep front line. Now, instead of talking about how the deep front line affects you postural or movement-wise or anything, I would like to just have a little bit of a chat, what I actually think or how I see the deep front line, and the more important side of it, just after this little snippet. So if you want to look at it postural and that kind of stuff, the deep front line is very much not involved in any kind of movement, except in obviously with the breathing, as I said before, because it is so deeply attached to the diaphragm and almost forms the diaphragm in some way as well. As well as another really important job of the deep front line is actually balancing the neck and holding the head, which obviously the other lines do as well, but because it is coming from the inside, your deep front line is your core. And when I say core, it's not just the core, not just your six pack and your abdominals here, but it is literally your core going all the way through. So I want you to think of your core more of like the core of an apple, which sits right in the center, surrounded by everything else, but still has a connection on both ends. You see the stem that's coming out on the top, and then always those little brown thingies on the bottom of it. So, they're still connected to the core all the way through. So what I actually want to get onto today is, for me, the deep front line has a lot to do with emotional stuff. And more so because it is so deep connected, like it is going through the inside of your body. So not just from a muscular point of view, but the deep front line kind of engulfs and supports and is connected to all of your organs. So we're talking liver, we're talking kidneys, we're talking your heart muscle, we're talking lungs, we're talking your intestines. It's literally everywhere and tapping into all of those structures. So if you're coming from a more traditional Chinese medical view, your organs are connected to emotions. So your liver, for example, is connected with anger. They connect the kidney with fear, the lungs with sorrow, the heart with joy, and the spleen, for example, with worriness. So if if one of those people that think a lot, they in traditional Chinese medicine, that would be connected to your spleen in terms of when they're starting to treat the body. Or also when symptoms arise, then you have issues with your spleen, they would look at how much of a worrier you might be. And it's interesting when you think about that, because worrying, thinking a lot, in particular thinking over and over and over the same stuff again, thinking takes a lot of energy. The brain requires the most sugar to function, so carbohydrates and that kind of stuff. And the spleen is the organ that is responsible to keep your blood sugar levels in check, but also that will drive your hunger for sugars when it detects that the sugar levels in the blood are very low. So to me it just all makes sense. I haven't obviously studied in that area too much, so I can't explain everything in depth, but the knowledge I do have background-wise, to me that makes absolute sense. So traditional Chinese medicine for me now kind of, as we're heading into the myofascial stuff, it's almost like the myofascial stuff is now proving what traditional Chinese medicine has been teaching and practicing for hundreds and hundreds of years without having any scientific proof why it works. So that's where that comes in. Because when you think about the deep front line and how it is supposed to stabilize everything and hold everything up and have your breathing nice and open, if that gets affected, usually the posture that then comes in is everything kind of falls in and caves in and everything collapses. As our arches, for example, collapse because the deep front line is supposed to help and let your arch pop up. And again, usually when that comes in, this is all stuff when we do experience emotional trauma of any sort, whether it is with loss or grief or anger or fear. Usually all that stuff comes together, and again makes sense because all those organs are connected through that one myofascial line, so they all kind of affect each other as they go. So I guess I'm really not sure where this video is going to head, so I'm trying to keep it short and not get lost in my train of thoughts here. But therefore, I guess what I want to say with this video, or what I want to get at, is that what we see and do physically is always connected to our emotions as well. Hence, if you have a day where you're not feeling that great because of you remembering something from your past or something has happened that's upset you and you've got your training session booked, I highly recommend, if you're not completely down and wiped out, to still go and do your training, but really be sensible about it and dig deep and feel deep whether you're able to push yourself to a point of high functionality, or whether it's a day where you maybe should give your body just a bit of TLC, and instead of doing a hefty cardio or hefty weightlifting session, just to take it a notch back and just go for a stroll, or just do some myofascial release, for example, to actually try and let those emotions actually work through. So it's always important to check in with yourself, check on your emotions to see how they affect your body, and vice versa. So if you're doing movements or exercise or whatever that always gets you in a position that affects that deep front line and affects it in a negative way, that can also then have an effect how you're feeling. You know, if something pulls your diaphragm in and therefore restricts your breathing, that's not gonna feel very nice. However, it's probably very subtle, so you may not be aware of it. So that's just a bit of food for thought, I guess. And as I said, it's not something I've like fully worked out yet myself. So if this is something that kind of sparked your interest, or even got a couple of your own thoughts in your head, always happy to just discuss and see where it leads us. And I guess I'll leave it at that for today. I'm guessing I'm still close to a 10-minute video again anyway. So we'll leave it at that. And this will be it, as I said, for the myofascial lines. And the next few videos coming up will always be something different. What we do Wednesday, so it'll always have to do with whatever we do here. So it might be stretching videos, it might be movement videos, it might be even sometimes maybe some diet related stuff, or some emotional release stuff, maybe even some massage work. So stay tuned, tune in on a Wednesday and listen and watch and comment and get into discussions, and let's live better and live longer and live smarter. Cool. All right, till next week. Bye for now.